everyone, my name is Jenna, but you guys can call me Jen, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my second haul of 2022. Now, I didn't realize you were going to be here this soon, but I've hauled a fair number of books, so we're just going to get into this. I'm going to use my bullet journal because I keep track of my hauls just so I can shame myself in such a fashion. Since I last talked to you, I've hauled too many books. The first kind of order I made was through Book Outlet, which is, you know, a discount store in Canada because their prices are real good. Real good. The first one I picked up was The Last Watch by J.S. Dowes. I had picked up, I believe, the sequel to this one previously, which I talked about in my previous video, from the same place, and then I went back on a week later and this first one was available and I loved this first one and I wanted to own it, so I was like, hell yeah, I'm picking this up. So love this awesome space adventure. Then in that same order I also picked up another book that I have read previously, which was a library book that I originally read, which was Seven Devils by Elizabeth May and Laura Lamb. Fantastic found family queer story. I just loved it. I needed to own it. And then I also picked up The Haunting of Tramcar 015, which is a P. Gilly Clarke novella, itty bitty. It is part of the Master of Jinn narrative, and this one comes before that, but doesn't follow the agent in The Master of Jinn or his other novella, which I don't own. I thought I owned it. I owned his other one, Black God's Drums, but I have also then read this, so we are 3 for 3, my guys. Hauled 3, read 3. Incredible. The next one that I ended up picking up, I went to Indigo and I picked up 2 because that's just apparently what I do. I picked up One for All by Lily Lineoff, which I have then read. This is a Three Musketeers gender-bent retelling historical YA book, and I absolutely love this because our main character has pots and it's just so good, and the found family in this, I would die for everyone in this family. It's so good. And then I also picked up The Atlas 6 by Olivie Blake, which I have yet to read, but I do want to read it soon because I want to know the hype. I need to know the hype. I need to know why everyone on TikTok loves this. And I'm intrigued to see how a self-published novel has been, because I know Tor has said they've done edits to this, so I'm wondering if all the comments of those who have read the self-published novel, The Atlas 6, I wonder if they still stand up pacing-wise, because I know there was a bit of issues with pacing in this, but I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to read that one. Then, because I saw a post by Penguin, I had to buy this, and I bought it from Abe Books, which is a used bookstore, which is my only used online bookstore that I buy classics from. It is like the place I buy classics from, and that is I bought Emma from it, which is joining my collection of Penguin cloth-bound classics because I have Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility from the Jane Austen collection. I also have Little Women and Lady Chatterley's Lover, but I wanted to add Emma to it because Emma is tied with Pride and Prejudice as my favorite Jane Austen book. So then I picked up a book when I went to the thrift store, which I was really surprised to see, and it was an N.K. Jemisin book. It's her book, The 100,000 Kingdoms, which is the first book, a trilogy, I do believe. It's called the Inheritance Trilogy. So usually you see these books in a omnibus, but I was really excited to find it just like this because this spine matches my spine of the 5th season, which I'm very excited about. And I want to read more N.K. Jemisin, so happy to add this to my collection. We love N.K. Jemisin in this house. We really, really do. All right, then I made another Book Outlet order. Don't come for me. I've done too many orders like this. I picked up The Year of the Reaper by Makia Lucier, which I have since read and enjoyed. You can watch my, I believe, my second Medievalathon vlog to see my thoughts on this one. But yeah, fun standalone YA fantasy, historical fantasy that is based off of the Black Plague. So very interesting and very, very good. In that order, I also picked up The Galaxy and the Ground Within by Becky Chambers, which is my favorite of her Wayfarer series, so I had to get it. It's number 4, and I'm going to be collecting the hardbacks of the Wayfarer series that look like this because I think that they just look so cool and retro. So I needed to. And I'm surprised that I don't own any of her Wayfarer series other than this one because I just love her books so much. So I'm going to be collecting these hardcovers as I find them. So we'll be doing that. But I love her series so much. I love Becky Chambers. Oh God. If you're looking for like character-driven sci-fi, she is your girl. Then I also picked up The Unspoken Name by A.K. Larkwood, which is, I don't even know how to describe it. I'm currently 80 pages in. I'm currently reading this for Medievalathon, and it is about Xorwe, who has been raised by a death cult, and I believe she's an orc because they describe her having tusks and having like gray skin. So I'm assuming she's an orc. It's never actually confirmed. In this book, they don't really state outright the like different species or races of people in this, of beings, but we have her, Weyyheyyy, who is gray-skinned and has tusks that grow. Another one of the characters in this is described with really long pointy ears, and I'm like, well, obviously he's an elf. So really cool, but there's also like portal worlds in this. I don't know, but I'm enjoying this and I picked this up as well. The next book actually was given to me by my friend, Sophie. And that is because she had an extra copy of Detransition Baby by Tori Peters. So I want to read this at some point whenever I'm in the mood for some literary fiction. And it's a little short book and I've heard only good things about it. So other than that, I know absolutely nothing about this, but I will be reading it at some point. All right, then I made a purchase from what is called the Littlest online bookshop, I do believe. It is currently closing, unfortunately, due to financial issues, but it's based out of Ontario, and because of its closing, they had like a 30% off sale, so I picked up 4 books. 4 used books off of their site, and I'm excited about them all. So I picked up The Wren Hunt by Mary Watson. The only thing I know about this is that it is Irish, and I'm Irish, and I was like, ah, I'm Irish. This is Irish. Let's do it. It's literally the only thing I know. And this cover is really pretty. Then I also picked up a blind date with a book that they had on their thing. It was it was pitched as like a sci-fi women's 70s kind of a thing, and it ended up being The Ruins of Isis by Marion Zimmer Bradley. And I believe Marion Zimmer Bradley is a big name in like fantasy and sci-fi, so I'm excited to read this. And this book is like the dust jacket art? I don't know, the cover art is wild. It's wild. We love to see it. It reminds me of like old Harlequin romance covers, which I love. And then I also picked up a compilation of Tolkien stories. It is the Farmer Giles of Ham and the Adventures of Tom Bombadil, which is the reason why I picked it up, was the Adventures of Tom Bombadil, because I do want to read this one day. And it's so cute. It's like a little story with little illustrations throughout, and it's Tolkien, so I couldn't not. And my heart explodes whenever I see like old vintage type copies like this. Absolutely love. Absolutely love. And then in that order, I also picked up The Search for the Red Dragon by James A. Owen, which is the second book to Here There Be Dragons by James A. Owen. I never really intended to continue with this series, but like when I saw this book on there, I couldn't not, because it is the exact match to my copy of the first book. So I guess I will be reading this series further at some point. Next, I picked up Bluebird, which is another library book that I fell in love with, and so I had to get my own copy. So this is a like lesbian gunslingers in space with like space librarians and an adventure romp, running from the law type of story, which is really fun. We love sci-fi like this, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the writing, and I'm glad that I have a copy for my shelves because I have no willpower apparently. Then when I went to McNally recently, which is a local bookstore here, I picked up another John Gwynne book because I saw it on the shelves and I knew I had to, because y'all know John Gwynne is one of my favorite like auto-buy authors now. And so it's his first in the like next trilogy after the Faithful and the Fallen. So it does the like Faithful and the Fallen, which is the Malice Quartet, and then it does these, which I'm very excited to dive into when I finish the Faithful and the Fallen. Picked up the first one, which is A Time of Dread. Then at some point, I hauled this book, and I didn't write it in my bullet journal when I got it, because I also got it alongside a big like coffee table book that I'm not going to feature in this because it's not really, you know, a book that I'm adding to my shelves. A big coffee table book that I picked up that was on sale. So I picked this one up as well. I never wrote it in my bullet journal when I bought it. So apparently I missed this one, but it is Why She Wrote, which is a graphic history of the lives, inspiration, and influence behind the pens of classic women writers. And this is written by the two ladies behind the podcast Bonnets at Dawn. And I'm really excited to read this. This is on my TBR for Medievalathon. And it is literally a graphic novel memoir, which also includes, or graphic novel history, which includes graphic novel illustrations and then like essays about the lives of these women writers. So very excited to read this. All right, then one of my most recent purchases of books were these three. So I ended up picking up Ballad and Dagger, an Outlaw Saints novel by Daniel Jose Older, which is the first YA fantasy book of the Rick Riordan Presents series. His little sticker is kind of not visible as much on this book as normal, but it's the imprint's first YA book, which I'm very intrigued to read. And it is, again, mythology, so I'm into it. I'm into it. Y'all know I love my Rick Riordan Presents books, so I'm hoping that that YA one hits. And speaking of YA and like Percy Jackson and stuff, I also picked up Zachary Ying and the Dragon Emperor by Sranjes Zhao. This is their first middle grade book and their second book released this year because they released Iron Widow, I do believe, this year. Was it this year or was it last year? Late in the year. It was last year, late in the year, because my friend got me it for Christmas. Nice. Okay, so it's their second book out and it is their first middle grade and they compare it to Percy Jackson. So I'm intrigued and I really like the way that Shran writes, so I'm very interested to see how they do with middle grade. And then that same day, I also picked up Emily Henry's new book, which is Book Lovers, that I'm so excited to read. It is also my friend's book club pick for this month, so I will be reading it very, 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 very soon. And y'all know I love Emily Henry, so I'm excited to see how this one goes because I have high hopes for this. The last book that I've hauled recently is a book actually sent to me by Amy Prokopis, the author herself, who has frequented my live streams, and it's The Arena, which is kind of cool. I don't really know what genre this is, but I'm getting fantasy sci-fi vibes. I'm getting fantasy sci-fi vibes with this cover, and with the the person on the cover has a sword, but it also feels kind of Dune-esque with this like sci-fi-esque. I don't know, but I'm intrigued and I will be reading this at some point. But yes, thank you, Amy, for gifting this to me. I'm very excited about it. You may be saying, Jen, I know you have other books that you're not hauling. That would be correct because I am now going to talk about the books that I've pre-ordered that have already come to me. So we've had my hauled books and now we've had my hauled books that I pre-ordered. So like I was cognizantly, I pre-ordered them a while ago. So I have a couple meaning 5. All right, so we got The Hunger of the Gods by John Gwen, which is the beautiful sequel to Shadow of the Gods, which is one of my favorite fantasy books. And I'm absolutely so jazzed to continue with this trilogy. This is the second in the trilogy and I'm so ready. I'm so ready. But my plan is to finish The Faithful and the Fallen, which is the Malice, Valor, Ruin, and Wrath before I dive back into this. I might go back on that once I finish Valor, depending on how Valor, ends. But because it's all by the same author, I don't want to confuse myself with the worlds. So I might end up finishing Valor, reading something else as like a palate cleanser, and then diving into this. I really want to also reread Shadow of the Gods before I jump into this. So it's just going to be a John Gwen filled year. I'm so ready. Oh, I'm so excited about that. Ooh, I also hauled City of Dusk by Tara Sim, which I have read and enjoyed. It was quite good. It was an interesting world building scenario about 4 different characters, 4 different houses with each representing a different branch of magic. And it has like the fights of gods and mortals intertwined in it. It's also got a little bit of portal magic as well. It was interesting and I'm really glad I read it and picked it up. I also picked up Gallant by V.E. Schwab, which is on my Medieval-a-thon TBR as well. So I will be getting to it this month, hopefully very, very soon. But this one is also signed, which I'm very excited about. But yes, picked up Gallant. These 2 next ones came in. The first one is Kaikeyi by Vishnavi Patel, which I applied for their pre-order campaign and got a signed book plate in the mail, which is very fun. So I'm very excited to read this. This is, I believe, a mythological retelling that people say that if you really like Circe, you'll like this. Didn't love Circe, but I love mythological retelling, so I'm in. And I also, last book of this haul is The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. This I am amped for. This is probably one of my most anticipated reads of the year. And I am so sad that I cannot squeeze it into my Medieval-a-thon TBR because if I could, I would. But I can't. So I'll hopefully be reading it in June. I'm so excited about it. I'm so excited to have this in my hands and it's just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Anyways, my friends, those are all the books that I've so far hauled since my last haul, which I believe I filmed in March sometime. I don't know, but I need to stop buying so many books. Thank you so much for watching. I will catch you guys in another video very, very soon. Stay kind and keep on reading.